Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today, we are looking at something pretty unique, not just a successful brand, but a market force that basically appointed itself the editor-in-chief of premium quality. We're diving into the world of connoisseur grade only, or CGO, and really looking at how they built an entire culture, the hashhole culture, by defining a standard instead of, just chasing volume.
It's a phenomenal case study,
Yeah.
really, because CGO didn't invent the high-end rolled product, not at all.
Right.
But they absolutely formalized it. They took a concept that was like floating around in small circles and turned it into this verifiable, rigorous certification mark.
So the brand becomes the filter.
The brand is the ultimate filter. It draws a line in the sand and says, look, if you don't meet these 6 specific criteria, you just don't exist in this space.
So our mission today is to synthesize that history, those quality standards, and the surprising ripple effects CGO created. We'll trace their scrappy origins, dissect their famous 6-point checklist.
Oh yeah, the checklist is key.
And we'll track their influence on the physical infrastructure of the industry, like rolling papers, of all things. For you, the listener, we're exploring how intentional scarcity and just non-negotiable quality can redefine an entire sector.
That's really the heart of it. If you see a hashhole today, the expectation you have that it has to have a clean burn, amazing taste, hold its shape.
Right.
That's largely because of the criteria this one brand codified and just rigidly enforced. They didn't just make a product, they wrote the rule book.
Okay, let's unpack this. Every movement needs a launch pad, and for CGO, that was the 916.
Sacramento, NorCal.
Exactly. And our sources say that this environment was critical because reputation, personal vouching, that meant everything. Product moved on trust, not billboards.
And that scarcity of trust, it directly shaped their whole philosophy. They got it. In a market that's just saturated with options, the brand had to be a powerful filter first and a product second.
So connoisseur grade only isn't just a catchy name.
It's a mission statement. It's curation over bulk. They took on this, as you said, editor-in-chief role to make sure they were only partnering with the most respected, the heady cultivators and hash makers.
I love that phrase. Like they're vetting the content, not creating all of it. They're saying, we don't do filler, we don't do bulk.
No bulk mentality at all.
But our sources point to a very specific moment when this all clicked into place. Sometime between 2020 and 2021.
That's right. The founder was already watching this emerging craft roller scene really closely. People like Bruno Bars, the Pro Company, Roll BMC.
The artists.
The absolute artists. They were showing this insane level of artistry. He saw the talent was there, but the consistency, it wasn't formalized, for a broader high-end audience.
And here's where it gets really interesting, because the actual aha moment, the thing that led to the CGO launch, it was sensory.
It was.
It clicked after he smoked 2 specific examples. A donut from All Tied Up and another from Fidel's. It was that realization that this level of perfection, if you could repeat it, that was the real gap in the market.
And that experience solidified everything. The name, the direction. They officially launched in 2021, and the timing was just perfect. The market was surging with demand for these formalized premium experiences.
And CGO was just ready to provide the standard everyone was kind of looking for.
They didn't have to push the format. They just had to perfect the quality control around it.
But I mean, waiting for perfection is expensive. It's slow. How do they balance that filter philosophy with, the need to actually grow a business? Didn't that zero tolerance policy mean turning away a lot of money?
It did, but that's the genius of it. Their early focus wasn't on revenue, it was on building unassailable credibility. They knew if they compromised that filter even once, the whole brand premise just fails. So they stayed small, they stayed rigorous. And that brings us right to their main language of communication.
The hashhole.
The hashhole.
Let's go there. Because the Mr. Hashhole concept is where their reputation becomes a physical thing. This isn't just, rolling some stuff together. This is a meticulous, self-imposed standard.
It really became the gold medal for the whole category. It was their certification program. If you wanted that CGO seal, you had to pass a 6-point checklist.
Right.
And the sources are crystal clear. If a product failed, even one of those points,
it was done.
Dead in the water, it did not move. That's an almost pharmaceutical level of obsession for a hand-rolled product.
We have to spend some time on those 6 criteria. This is the intellectual property that changed everything. It's not just a list, it's a whole strategic framework.
It's the CGO Constitution. So the first 2 are all about the inputs. Number 1, meticulous flower prep.
What does that mean exactly? Like the grind?
It's the grind, the density, the moisture level, all to get an even, slow burn. And 2, Exacting rosin selection. The rosin has to be clean, melt perfectly, and keep its flavor all the way through.
Okay, wait, back to the flower prep. Why is density so critical? This is the kind of detail our audience loves.
Oh, it's everything. It is everything for the experience. If it's too loose, it burns unevenly, it canoes right away.
Ugh, hate that.
And if it's too tight, then the third criterion fails, optimal airflow. If the airflow is wrong, it clogs, it burns hot, and the whole experience is ruined. CGO literally engineered the structure so air moves correctly.
So it's structural engineering, basically. What about the last three? The ones that measure the actual experience?
They look at the evidence. So 4 is the ash. It must smoke clean.
The proof of purity.
The ultimate proof. No specks, no discoloration. Then 5, the structure. It has to hold form. It can't sag or fall apart halfway through.
It has to look good till the end.
Right. And finally, 6, the finish. It must finish correctly. It burns down evenly to the filter. No waste, no hot spots. Consistent flavor to the very last puff. It's a full product life cycle assessment.
That is surgically precise. But here's the challenge. CGO wasn't just certifying its own rolls. They collaborated with huge players, right? Doja Pak, Deep East, Champelli. How do you enforce those 6 points with brands that operate at a totally different scale?
That's the smartest part of their brand deployment. They acted as a standard bearer, a consultant. They claim they helped push some of the very first Hashhole drops for those giants.
So they weren't the factory, they were the quality control.
Exactly. CGO wasn't necessarily producing all the volume, but they provided the template and the stamp of approval. Their standard basically said, if we vouch for this run, it meets the highest bar. And that accelerated the whole format's adoption.
So they certified and collaborated instead of white labeling. They used their credibility to lift the entire category. And they also thought about accessibility, which usually gets lost when quality is this high.
They did. They saw the need for a standard in smaller formats. They were one of the first to really push the mini Hashhole packs.
But they kept the same standards.
Exactly the same. The mini was a fixed spec, 0.5 gram of flour, 0.1 of rosin. And this is critical, always hand-rolled. They proved the CGO philosophy of no shortcuts could scale down without watering down the experience.
That commitment to hand-rolling, even for the minis, that sends a massive signal. It says the labor, the craft is non-negotiable.
It does. It shifts the whole focus from industrial efficiency to craft consistency.
So if the Hashhole is the product and the 6 criteria are the blueprint, then the culture is the operating system. Our sources really stress that CGO's success is just. It's deeply rooted in the roller culture itself.
That is the key distinction. In a corporate world, the brand takes all the credit, right?
Always.
CGO does the opposite. They make this deliberate countercultural move to put the rollers in the spotlight. Our research points directly to crews like 66 Super Smoke and Idle Hands Rolls as holding core rolling credits for the brand. These are people known for obsessive detail.
So that focus on unity, making sure the makers get the spotlight, it's like an inversion of traditional branding. CGO created the high status filter, but they celebrated the human skill needed to pass through it.
And they cemented that by building the community infrastructure, the cultural anchors. They created 2 major touchstones.
Okay, let's look at those. First, they established National Hashhole Day.
A formal holiday under their banner just to celebrate the craft.
And then there's Hashhole Island, a recurring summer event.
Yeah, that's turned into a huge annual gathering. They're already planning the 4th one for summer 2026. This isn't just marketing, it's community governance. They created the time and the place for the Connoisseur community to come together.
Which just reinforces their position as the cultural leader, not just a supplier.
It's the ultimate soft power move.
It is. And this leads us perfectly into their business strategy, which was, from what our research shows, surprisingly counterintuitive.
Yeah, what's so fascinating is their retail strategy, or, their lack of one. They chose reels over storefronts. They focused entirely on process over height.
So instead of expensive rent, they invested in just showing how the product was made to meet the standard.
They realized their credibility was their storefront. And this media focus had some staggering results.
Give us an example.
Okay, the sources highlight a specific thermal feature they did on First Smoke of the Day. It was this documentary-style look at their process. That one video hit 1 million views on YouTube.
Wow.
That kind of content, focused on credibility and process, performs so much better than an ad. It lets you see the 6 criteria in action.
And that created a halo effect, right? It spilled over into traditional press.
It did. They got coverage in Honeysuckle Magazine, LA Weekly, even High Times. They pushed this hyper-niche quality culture into a national conversation, all based on the quality they showed in those reels.
And all this visibility had a shocking impact on the actual supply chain.
Yeah.
On the, what do the sources call it? The paper lane.
Yeah, the paper lane. It's an amazing example of a quality filter dictating infrastructure.
How does a company focused on quality control end up influencing the entire paper industry? That feels like a huge leap.
Well, because CGO's precise specs for density and structure, they required a larger, higher quality of paper than was normally available. So they created this massive, consistent demand for OCB XXL papers.
Right. Before them, the standard was more like Elements Extra Large.
Exactly. CGO's commitment to their specific quality basically forced the national market to stock and expand the supply chain for the OCB XXL size.
So they demanded a specialty tool. And because their brand had such high status, the supply chain had to start providing that tool nationwide to meet the demand that CGO by itself created.
Precisely. It's the ultimate proof that the standard is the product. The final summation of the CGO seal is simple. Clean burn, real ratios, no shortcuts. That commitment defined the necessary inputs for anyone else who wanted to compete at that level.
So what does this all mean for you, the listener, no matter what industry you're in? The key takeaway from this deep dive is that in an emerging or chaotic market, defining a precise, non-negotiable quality standard, that powerful filter, is infinitely more impactful than just trying to compete on volume and price.
CGO proved it. They proved that defining the benchmark is more powerful than maximizing the output. They established the rules for perfection, and the market, all of its infrastructure, it had to conform. They created demand not just for the final product, but for the whole system needed to support it.
Right down to the rolling papers.
Right down to the papers.
So building on that idea of setting standards, we've seen how a commitment to quality can actually change an entire supply chain. CGO showed us the power of saying no to volume. And that raises an important question for you to mull over. What specific non-negotiable benchmark in your industry currently doesn't exist? And if you defined it with surgical precision, how could you force the entire infrastructure to play catch-up?
It's the power of the filter. It remains.
We'll catch you on the next deep dive.